Hey, hello. Hopefully you guys find me. Hey, Matt. Sorry about the technical issues on the other stream. Hey, Loretta. It sounded so funny. I was like, when I played that video clip for you guys, I'm like dying laughing. Hey, Kristen. Yep, it's live. I was just live a couple minutes ago, and my microphone was having issues, and I sounded like an alien. So I decided to start a new one on my phone just to finish up the first one. So needless to say, I'm probably gonna have to delete that one. So it's pretty annoying. I did, however, it took me a little bit longer to start this live stream, but I figured out a way to screen share. So if I do want to share anything with you guys from my phone, I can. So, well, at least like as far as videos that I have on my phone downloaded, I don't know about actually screen sharing, but so if I wanted to play, for instance, like any of my uploaded videos from the case that I have still on my phone, I could, I could play that. Um, but yeah, so I would love to play that entire ODD TV video for you guys. But again, like immediately the first thing besides what I played for you guys, the first thing that comes on the screen is that certain student that went to that certain school in a certain state, no, in Florida. So, and like his name is one of those names on YouTube that shall not be mentioned. You down with ODD? Yeah, you know me. I can't believe I just did that. Like the whitest rapper ever. Hey, J Dub. Hey, Scotty. Didn't you say earlier on D Live, Scotty? You said going back to Cali. Cali. But so like I was saying, I'd love to play it for you guys, but I can't because, well, because of YouTube. But I I really want to play it because it points out. I mean, I think Scotty was there for my live stream. I think you were, at least for some of it, anyways, where I played ODD TV's crisis entertainment people on there. I don't even want to say crisis actor, but I don't really care. Oh yeah, Amanda. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm a night owl as well, so um, that's good. Glad you're able to catch a live stream, and hopefully you guys can hear me okay because I can't um, test it to make sure that you can. So, but again, these videos and this from other content creators that I play on D Live, they are pointing out all the same things or most of the things that I am pointing out with the Watts case in these other tragic events. And that's what you guys need to see and know, that I'm not the only one that's talking and pointing out these inconsistencies and these same patterns and characteristics in other events as well. I know, I'm surprised you're still up, Scotty. I was going to actually mention that earlier because you're always like, why do you go on so late? What do you mean? You love crisis actors, J-Dub. That used to be your name, pretty much. Crisis cast. So so that clip that I played in the video before I ended the first live stream, he's talking about that bill that was passed in 2012 that I've mentioned a few times in my uploaded videos, but as well as my live streams, is that Smith Modernization Act of 2012, which, prior to that, they weren't allowed to push the mainstream media and the government were not allowed to push propaganda in order to or lie in order to sway the public's opinions on certain things. Um, Prior to that, I mean, they still did it anyways. Just so you know, they still were doing it. They've been doing it for a very long time. However, now that that bill is passed, they can do it without any repercussions, or we're not allowed to get upset. We can't get mad. We can't demand anything. We're not allowed to make a big old fuss about it because they can legally, um, the mainstream media and the U.S. government can legally push propaganda and lie to us. That means they can make up whatever news story that they want to or any event that they want to, whether it be, I always use like this alien cat example, but um, I don't know. Think of anything as a stupid, like local news story, right? Um, if they said a cat seen riding on unicorn through the grocery store, not wearing a mask. I don't know, something that whatever. I mean, that obviously that's ridiculous, but it doesn't matter. They can 100% make up whatever they want and have no repercussions for it. So it can be something like that, or something small, like like a child saving a little elderly woman from getting hit by a car when she was crossing the street. Just because they said it, it doesn't mean it happened, but they can make it up. Hey, Sandy. Again, not very good examples, but it's what I could think of off the top of my head. All the way up to orchestrating an entire homicide case. They can legally do it. So when I hear people say, how can they do this? How can they get away with it? And not many people are saying that as far as my theory goes, but in regards to the whole cover up theory that a lot of people believe, they say, how can they get away with something like this? How can they just have do such a crappy investigation and leave us with so many unanswered questions, and not, why isn't Rourke answering any of these questions? Why isn't Weld County? It's because they don't have to, because they can legally do it. I'm sorry to hear about your pup, Scotty. Yeah, me too, Amanda. That was one of the first things. Like, obviously, I was like, not obviously, but I was quite young when that event happened. So it wasn't until many years later that you know I started researching this kind of stuff. I guess conspiracy stuff, if you will. Um, and just by watching one like documentary, a conspiracy documentary, it's like it really made me think. I'm like, well, like they did fall down at like free fall speed, and why did they clear all the debris out so quickly and ship it off to China? And how did this passport just happen to be found in all the rubble without a scratch on it? And just many other things that didn't make sense. And so that's when I started watching some other 9/11 videos and and then some more and more. And then that led me to, a different orchestrated event video. So eventually, I watched so many that they all started to make sense, and they made sense as well because they follow the same itinerary, essentially the same characteristics, the same patterns. To where you're going, okay, there's no way that this can be coincidental. And once and if you are able to wake up to the deception, it's going to be it's everything just makes perfect sense, and it's almost ridiculous how obvious it is because they don't hide it. They don't hide it at all. But the majority of people will just hear it on the mainstream media or from the government, and they will just believe it because they saw it on TV or because they saw um, a parent up there who appears to be very distraught and upset because their child was just murdered, you know, in this tragic event. But the reason why they make them so tragic, and they have these people. I'm not going to say the A word. They're these people that The thing is, they okay. Let me slow down here because I just start to get all like, and then this and this and this and this, and I don't want to go like too crazy. But one example is they will have these parents or the victim's family who either the day of or the day after or just a couple days later will go up in front of all these cameras on the mainstream media, right, and give a statement. um it's a very, very, very sad one, of course, because it always has to be sad because it has to pull at heartstrings. It has to get people so upset that they just think with their emotions and they don't think logically, and all they see is this person who's not clearly, I'm not going to say clearly upset because, and I wish I could play that video for you guys so that you can see what I'm talking about because it's so almost ridiculous. Actually, it is ridiculous um, for a lot of these events because they're just ridiculous. But you have to, and again, like when I started to become, awake about, or having my eyes open to the deception that was going on, that we were being lied to. um, I was the one that went and researched it, right? You have to want to do the research and watch these videos. But also back then, a few years ago, YouTube and these social media platforms, they were not nearly as censored as they are now. I mean, it's bad. I mean, you guys know, like, I can't even say the GUN without worrying about stepping on eggshells, right? Um, or to where, like I said earlier, ODD TV, he has to upload a censored video just for YouTube and then do an uncensored one for Odyssey so that they don't get a strike on their channel. So what was a lot easier for me personally because it wasn't as censored. And the channel creators could say whatever they want, but over time, little by little, they've been censoring people like myself, RV Truth, ODD TV, High Impact Flicks, to where we've had to like go to other platforms because the censorship is so bad. And I know that a lot of people don't realize that because they don't know, they don't, unless you're following that channel all the time, you wouldn't know if their channel got taken down, or if you don't even know what a PSYOP is or whatever. Um, there's many channel creators that have had their channels taken down several times and had to start over again. Hey, Melissa. Yeah, I know, Scotty. I know I'm not down with ODD, but um, So again, it was much easier for me and for the other channel creators to get their theories out there and to get their points across, because they could play whatever they wanted to or stream whatever they wanted to, and the other, or the video footage of whatever event to make their point. So that's why, I've been each live stream encouraging you guys to go over to D Live, and I know it's a pain in the butt, and I know it's kind of weird because it's quite a bit different than YouTube, and everyone's, YouTube is a good platform as far as the way it's set up, but once you get used to it, it's a good community over there as of now. Um, there's not a lot of trolls because it's smaller, and you know, channel creators support one another. We host one another. So if I'm ending my live stream and I have people watching me, I'll host somebody else who's live so that we can, again, help support one another. You don't see that happening on YouTube. It's all competition, especially in the true crime community. It's absolutely ridiculous. But and it's only going to be, I mean, who knows how long it's going to be until they start really censoring people there. And they're already doing it. Like I got in timeout already once for like 2 hours or something. I couldn't live stream, or a day. I don't. First it was 2 hours, then it was a day. But um, so somebody's getting to D Live for sure. So next it's going to be Odyssey. I know that Odyssey now has live stream capabilities, but then I'm already having a difficult time getting my subscribers to go over to D Live, and now I'm gonna have to tell the ones who follow me on D Live, or not tell, but ask the ones on D Live to follow me on Odyssey, and then I'm gonna have to learn a new platform. And it's so they're making it very, very difficult for anyone, for myself and anybody else who's trying to expose these the deception. Yeah, baked cake. The problem with D Live is you have to have a certain amount of followers to have replays that stay for longer than 3 days. So if I do a live stream on D Live, the replay will only be up for 3 days. So it doesn't save like it does to YouTube indefinitely. Now, I can make it so that my live streams on D Live will they'll record and download. So I have them saved to my computer, but it's not like I can just take it and upload it to YouTube, because that would defeat the whole purpose of going to D Live because of the censorship and what I can and cannot say on YouTube. Or I would just upload them to YouTube. Hey, Ara. They call them whatever you put them as, Lisa. They don't give us like a lot of options. You can put it as a podcast, a chatting, news, and like gaming or whatever. But they call them streams. Yeah, no, that's, I should have explained that again, but they'll only be up for 3 days. Now, you have to have 1,000 followers. Once you get there, then you can have up to 5 replays that play over and over again until you replace them with a different replay. And then it'll either do your most recent ones and replace them, or you can pick which ones that you want to keep playing over and over again. I stream pretty much every day, Mr. Moo, on D Live. Usually I try to do it around between 1 and 3 p.m. Mountain Time. And I stream all different content. Like I just played yesterday the ODD TV about the crisis actors, about the symbolism, the Hegelian dialectic he talks about in the video, and just the mockery of all of it. And I think it helps when you see these compilation videos that these other channel creators have done a great job with them. But again, I can't just play them for you guys. I have so many videos that I could play and show you, so you can see the patterns over and over and over again and see the consistency. But again, I can't. And then I just never know. Like, so a lot of my, I don't have like a ton of followers on DLive, but most of my followers on DLive have uh, heard about my channel from another channel creator that I follow, which is High Impact Flicks, and the majority of his viewers are already aware of government deception and these, psyops and orchestrated events. So they're not the ones that necessarily need to be woken up, I guess you could say. So I try not to play like too much of that kind of stuff that I would like to play for you guys over here on YouTube, because they they're already aware of it, and it's difficult. That's why sometimes I'll go live when I'm live on DLive on YouTube, so that I can just say, hey guys, I'm covering Watts. It only takes a couple minutes to sign up for to follow me on DLive, because that's the best way I know to get you to let you guys know that I'm over there. So I mean, I'm doing my best, that's for sure, with what I can. So wait, where's the cute emoji? I missed the cute emoji. Yeah, baked cake. It does suck you in, and that's the whole. That's how amazing these psyops work. Is if everybody knew that it was a psyop, it probably wouldn't be a very good psyop, right? But they've been doing it for a long time. And the question I get a lot for people that are thinking, they're kind of leaning towards it and so going, maybe, I don't know, Megan does make a good point, that maybe it is orchestrated. That's why nothing adds up. So they'll say, but what would be the purpose of it? Why would they go to such great lengths to fabricate an entire homicide case? The reason, or any of these orchestrated events, right? These tragic events. So the pew 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 shootings, that was pointless, Megan. I just said pew 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 shootings. Space cadet. I thought I was getting so good at it too. But on the last live stream, I just said school shooting, Sandy Hook, Pulse nightclub shooting, Las Vegas shooting. So whatever. Um, so whether it be terrorist attack, school shooting, homicide case, the reason why they orchestrate them is because they have to trick us. They have to trick us in order to take away our rights, so that we essentially will just give up our freedoms. And because they can't just come out and say, and this might sound repetitive, you probably have heard me say this many times, but again, if I repeat myself, it's because it's important, and my theory is not going to change ever. And I will continue to repeat myself until, as long as I can. So they have to orchestrate these events, these tragic events, in order to trick us. And that's, again, when that whole Hegelian dialectic comes in. Because they can't, for instance, with the pew 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 events, they can't just come out and do a press conference or whatever and say, hey, you know what? We're going to be honest. We do not want you to have your Second Amendment rights anymore. We don't want you to have the ability to protect you and your family from any intruders inside your home. So we're just being honest, and we're just going to take those away from you, okay? So if you'll just go ahead and hand over any of those pew 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 protection items over to us, then that'd be great. Kitty wants in 1 second. Okay, sorry. And hold that thought on your comment, Baked Cake, because I do want to get back to that because I have a response to that. Hello, little kitty. Hello. Hi. Hi there. Hi there. Yes, you're going to be all up in my grill, aren't you? Okay, sorry. So they can't just come out and say, we're going to take away your Second Amendment rights. Because that would never work, right? That would, and they know that. The public they wouldn't go for it. It would be suicide for them, right? They'd be outraged. Because you can't tell the public that you're going to just take their freedoms away, freedoms that they've had for many, many years. So again, they have to trick us. So what they do is they orchestrate. Yes, I know. Hello. They orchestrate these pew 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 events, and they make them as tragic as possible because they know that the majority of people are going to just believe the mainstream media and the U.S. government, and it's not just happening in the United States either. They're doing it in other countries as well. But what are you doing? You're so funny. You're so funny. You're a funny girl. You just want attention. My little kitty is wanting attention. So they orchestrate these. Sorry, she's distracting me. You're gonna okay. Yes, you. I'm talking with my hand, and she's like batting at it. Like, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Stop talking with your hands. I wanna swat it. So they make them as tragic as possible, and so that way it pulls at heartstrings. So people get emotion. They think with their emotions, and they don't think logically. They just react. So that when they hear that innocent, children or students were lives were taken at the hands of this pew 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 person, right? Um, they just the public just reacts and think, oh my God, this is terrible. This is awful. Something needs to be done about all these pew 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 events happening and these innocent lives being taken. So the orchestrating the event is the problem, right? They create the problem. The public reacts. Stop the pew 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 events. So we turn to them to stop it from happening, not realizing that they were the ones who actually created the problem in the first place. Then you have the solution, and what's the solution? Taking away the Second Amendment a little bit at a time. So maybe it's bump stocks with the Vegas event. Maybe it's AKs with a different pew 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 event. And then a little bit over time, and eventually they're going to be gone, right? Because they're slowly but surely they're just taking away each item a little bit at a time. So it's always going to be done to either pass some sort of law or take away one of our freedoms. And it's actually like brilliant because, like I said, the ones who are begging for something to be done, the ones who are, you know, not thinking logically and just thinking with their emotions, the ones that just believe the mainstream media narrative, throw in a couple of you know, C class performers to pull at heartstrings, and you know, boom, you got your solution because people start demanding that something be done. So like I mentioned earlier with the Watts case, the behavior of the Ruseks, they're creating the problem and they're pushing an agenda. That's the reason for their bizarre behavior and their erratic behavior and they're causing chaos on social media and why they're not staying away from social media and they're engaging purposely in social media. And like I said earlier, not just social media, but the true crime community, which is the last place they should be because that's all we talk about is the deaths of people, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, to me personally, it makes perfect sense. But you have to get past the whole victim card thing. But so many people have this whatever that just victims are just perfect saints and they're just untouchable. And no matter what they do or say, no matter if they mock people on social media who are actually some of them trying to get justice for Shanann and the girls by mocking them and saying, "Oh, we know way everything, and we know way more than you guys do, and law enforcement and Frederick Police Department's never going to tell you um, everything we know," and just straight up mockery. But hey, it's okay because Frank Rusek is a victim, right? He's hurting. They make excuses. They make excuses for their um, making fun of other channel creators and mocking them, who they don't know if they've been, you know, victim or what they've been victim to in their life. It's, oh, they're just hurting, they're upset, and that's probably for their, no, I don't care. You're a victim, no excuse. You don't act that way. But everyone can, you know, so many people can accuse Nicole Kessinger of being a whore or whatever, and this, or a murderer, um, and an accomplice, and just a piece of shit or whatever. Why is that okay? Because she's not a victim to anything? Again, why is it that just because you're a victim, that means that you're not, that you're immune to scrutiny or being called out on your contradictions? Oh, no, and Ara, don't. That's the thing. Don't feel like a fool because you know it's you know that's the whole cognitive dissonance thing. Is a lot of people it they don't want to know, one, that they've been duped or fooled. Nobody wants to know that, and number two, they definitely don't want to admit that. So they will come up with every excuse and make, you know, um, or come up with every theory in the book as to why that could not be possible, right? But to me personally, I would rather say, hey, you know, that sucks that I was fooled. That sucks that our own government would do this to us. So they're supposed to be here to protect us, to better society, right? Um, like that's shitty. I know it's probably easier said than done, but I would rather suck it up and learn from it and do the research and not have it happen again. You know what I mean? Because it's not, I mean, at one point I was fooled as well, right? I believed everything that the mainstream media said. I thought that's what they were there for, to tell us the news, right? So don't, don't feel like a fool at all. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to point out these patterns and characteristics, and so that you guys aren't being subjected and duped by certain events to push an agenda. Because it breaks me to see so many people spending so much of their lives like advocating for for victims that they never met. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, that just shows that they're good people because they care. They care about innocent lives being taken. Um, but this case has actually affected people, like their personal lives, like outside of it, right? Like to where some where like they cry all the time over the girls in Shanann, or now they can't trust their husbands, which is one of the agendas, or their significant others. It's just it's beyond that, and that's terrible, right? Especially knowing that it's over nothing. But speaking of that, I want to go back to let's see if I can find Bake Cake's comment here, which has to do with your comment as well, Ara. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Okay, so Bake Cake said, I'm so new to the true crime community that I didn't think about PSYOP and false flags outside of the false flag pew pew pews. Same with me, Bake Cake. I had my, once I was woke, I don't even like saying that, but once I was aware of what was going on, I had my doubts about, like, because there was conspiracy channels that were talking a little bit about like the John Bonet case and the Madeleine McCann case, and just the red flags and the inconsistencies in there. But at the time I was just thinking probably whatever, cover up. Now they could very well be real cases, but I did not, same as you, I didn't know that they were orchestrating these high profile homicide cases. So when I first heard about the Watts case, I same thing with everybody else. I saw him on Dr. Phil and I was like, oh yeah, this guy is totally guilty. How could, and then I'm like, how could he stuff, that's crazy. How could he just kill his family and dump them at the oil site that he works for, and put their bodies in oil tanks, right? And the first thing I did when I got home from my trip, I got on the internet on YouTube and I just started looking at the case. So at that point, it had already got me hooked, right? Just like a ton of other people. Enough to go and start watching the body cam footage and Shanann's videos or whatever. So I didn't just right away know that this case was orchestrated, because like Big Cake said, I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't aware that they were doing it, besides like what Big Cake said, and the pew 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 events and the terrorist events. However, over time, just from watching everything that was released, that's when I started to notice those red flags that I tell you guys about all the time, and the characteristics to look out for in the future, so that you can and you're able to spot these other events, because they're not going to slow down. They're going to keep happening, and they're going to keep pushing agendas, and they're going to keep taking rights away. So not first thing, but one of the things I noticed was the amount of body cam footage that was released. And I remember, because I followed from day one the Las Vegas event, and that's the same thing with the Las Vegas event. They released a ton of body cam footage, the LVMPD report, the FIT report, witness statements, you name it, right? Same thing with the Watts case, the discovery, the body cam footage, Nicole Atkinson's 911 call, interview, interview, witness interviews or family and friend interviews, just a plethora of information, right? That you normally have to file FOIA requests to get. So I'm like, that's weird, like, because that's the same thing with Vegas. I just kept thinking of Vegas when I was watching Coonrod's body cam footage. And then, I watched Nate's footage, and I immediately got this feeling that it just felt too convenient, too, like, just very staged, and how everything was just set up just perfectly so that you could see Chris doing what he was doing, but then you couldn't see what he was doing because of all, the truck and the tree and whatnot. So, and then the discovery being released, and then I just started to notice more and more of those red flags. And then, of course, you have the quickly closed, no trial. I marked that one off. So I just want you to know that, like, so don't feel bad about being fooled. That's, again, why I'm doing this, so that we can just, accept it and say that was shitty. But now, or if and when, excuse me, you're able to see it, they are so, for the most part, easy to spot. So it's not that, like, the majority of people that fall for them, they fall for them because they have no idea what's happening. They would have no idea of what's going on. So unless you're aware and know what to look for, you would have no idea. So please don't feel like a fool, or don't feel bad at all. Elbow cough, elbow cough, elbow cough. I don't know what's happening. Oh, and the fact that and again, they don't, and RV Truth talks about this all the time, and ODD TV, they're not hiding anything, right? They're not hiding their symbolism in plain sight. I mean, and I wish I could play that ODD TV video for you guys, because it really shows how ridiculous these events are. And once you see it, it's, again, they're gonna make perfect sense to you, or so much more sense anyways. So if and when you're able to see what I'm saying and about this case, like, the unanswered questions that everyone's trying to figure out are going to make so much more sense, and it's going to be such a weight lifted off your shoulders. Again, yeah, it's going to suck. Like, once you're aware of all this, it sucks knowing about all the deception that's going on around us. It's shitty to know that, but again, I would rather be aware and not be duped and fooled and have it affect my life potentially. You know what I mean? Kristen says, they took down my Twitter, Facebook, IG, Instagram. People think we still have free speech. Yeah, no, we don't. We don't. And that's what I was saying earlier, is there's been channels that have been taken down several times, but someone will argue and say, well, their channel's still up, so obviously, but they didn't know that they had their channel taken down once, even sometimes twice and had to start over again. And then they have backup channels, but then those only stay up for so long. And baked cake, I agree about the Cash Gurnan case. I honestly don't even really need to look into it that much to know that it's probably orchestrated. Yeah, or I will put the link to the video that I did want to show you guys in the chat. I have a couple other ones as well. Maybe I'll just um, I'll figure out a way. I just don't want to like compile a playlist right now, but I think I still have it in my. Let me see. Oh no, I have his channel. Well, here I will put his link in the chat again to his channel, and just from the title, like let me see here. I go to YouTube. I'll just tell you a couple of the titles. Yeah, that's crazy too, Ara, is that news compilation where they're all literally saying the same thing. And they're like, something, something, happy birthday, or something, and then something about the Easter bunny. Yeah, they're all on the same script. Oh, you don't? Oh, I'm sorry, Baked Cake. I read your comment wrong. You don't feel like Cash Gurner was a false flag. Sorry, I didn't. I read it wrong. I'm like, I agree. Yeah, I would be any any true crime case that's on Dr. Phil. I would consider that. I would take it with a grain of salt because it's for entertainment purposes. Yeah, and the GF one was so Kristen plainly obvious to me. And but again, it's just because it's obvious to like you or I doesn't mean that everybody else it's going to be obvious to because you have to know what to look for. And I say look for, but even so, once you are awake and you know these characteristics and these little tricks that they use, you don't even have to look for them. That's the crazy part about it because they literally don't hide it, and it's so ridiculous. A lot of them, so ridiculously obvious, but it's laughable. But again, they know that the majority of people will just believe the mainstream media narrative and never once ask questions, or they will let their emotions get in the way of thinking logical. Oh yeah, I can put them in the description. That's a good idea, Sue. Kristen says, I don't know what to think of these kids who are missing and murdered. There are so many kids kidnapped and trafficked right through our courts. They that you never hear about. Yeah, and I agree. And that's the thing is, why is it that certain cases receive a ton of this, mainstream media attention? It's only certain ones, right? There's children that and people that die all the time and are murdered in horrific ways all the time. And, like Kristen said, missing children. There's so many missing children. So why is it that only some get so much media attention? And a lot of it. So just because, like, so for instance, like these other, like I believe that the Sharkey case is made up. I believe that the Gurning case is made up. I believe that well, pretty much, I don't want to say all of them, but I am beginning to think, because again, like Bake Cake said, I did not know that they were fabricating these high profile murder cases. I did not think to even go there. And that's why at first, like I said earlier, that I didn't, I had no idea that the Watts, I just got pulled in just like everybody else. Until I started to notice those red flags that have been burned into my brain from, the past few years, from watching people like Ole Damigard, who has pointed out these red flags and characteristics in the pew pew pews and the other terrorist ones. So subconsciously, I remembered them, and that's what made me take a step back with this case and look at it from a different perspective and go, wait a second, why am I starting to see so many, this doesn't make sense. Why is there so many of the same characteristics and red flags that I saw in the Las Vegas event and all the other ones that I've been, that I learned about? And then this is the icing on the cake for me. I mean, I'd already had a pretty good idea, but when I saw that and watched that body cam footage of Coonrod in Nate's house, and the American Horror Story teaser came on, and Chris turns to Coonrod and says, "Oh yeah, she's pregnant, by the way." I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I go and I start season 1 of American Horror Story. I'm like, well, let's see. The American Horror Story trailer on Nate's TV pretty much mirrors the Watts narrative, right? In about 40 seconds. So if there's that many similarities just in that teaser, it piqued my curiosity to go and watch the show and see if there was going to be any predictive programming in there. And holy cow, right? You guys have seen my American Horror Story videos. I have not seen so much predictive programming in one event besides 9/11, and that one was 9/11 is huge. I mean, we're talking similarities that are not stretching, because there's so many. Just the name similarities between the Watts case and the characters in American Horror Story are more than enough to prove, in my personal opinion, my theory. Just the names alone, how many of the same names there are. But to have similarities and connections in every single season of the show, there's 10 seasons, you guys. That's crazy. And in no way is it coincidental. So I start season 1, and the very first episode, there's a ton of connections. Then I get to, I think it goes Murder House, and then it goes Asylum, Freak Show, Coven, or something. Anyway, so and I've mentioned this before, so you probably heard it before if you've been following me for a while. But and then I'll check on the chat. In the season of Asylum, there's this evil mad scientist, doctor, whatever, not scientist, but doctor that works in the asylum, totally corrupt, does, you know, lobotomies and whatever on the patients that are in the asylum, um, and runs, you know, does surgical tests on them, whatever. Just sick because it's American Horror Story. But um, so there's a scene, for those of you that haven't seen my American Horror Story videos, there's a scene where the doctor, the evil doctor, and this woman, one of the patients who claims to be Anne Frank, that's what she, you know, in her head believes, whether she is actually her or not in the show or whatever, but is irrelevant. So she believes that she's Anne Frank, um, and so she's in this surgical room, and the doctor comes in, and they start, you know, yelling at each other, and he's like, you've made my life, you know, a living hell by you know, pretty much talking as much as you have. And well, hey, why don't I don't, never mind, I'll say, hey, why don't I just play it for you guys? But I don't have it downloaded on my phone, it's just on YouTube. And she goes, I know, because he's supposed to be from Germany, right? So she goes, I know who you are, I know what you did to those girls in Auschwitz. And I've known about this for a long time, and I still am amazed that they put this in there, that they threw this. It's so ridiculous, you guys. Um, she goes, I know who you are, and I know what you did to those girls in Auschwitz. Because again, he's supposed to be from Germany. And he looks at her and says, I'm not from Auschwitz, I'm from Scottsdale. And he says it just like that. I'm from Scottsdale. And when I saw that scene, I immediately was like, yep, it's a psyop, confirmed. That's the most ridiculous thing they could ever put as far as a connection in that show. And I'll tell you why. There's only, and the reason why I know this is because I live in Arizona, there is only one Scottsdale, which is a city in the entire world. There's no Scottsdale County. There's no Scottsdale, another city anywhere else. There's no Scottsdale, whatever, in the world. There's only Scottsdale, Arizona. So, and of course we know that Shanann flew into Phoenix just days before the murders for the Thrive convention that took place in Scottsdale. So when he says, I'm not from out, and so it's like, okay, why would they, this character who's supposed to be this crazy sick, you know, doctor who's supposed to be from Germany is telling this patient, no, I'm not from Germany, or I'm not from Auschwitz, I'm from Scottsdale. And if you're not familiar with Scottsdale, the city, it is a very rich city, one of the richer cities in Arizona. Um, you know, multi-million dollar homes, just um, that kind of city. So he's telling this patient who believes she's Anne Frank that he's not from Auschwitz, he's from Scottsdale. So one, we have the fact that there's no other Scottsdale in the world. So that makes it pretty much not coincidental at all. Actually, it can't be coincidental. And two, the fact that they're trying to say that this, as far as the story goes, the storyline is that this crazy German Auschwitz, you know, doctor is from this, claiming to be to Anne Frank, this high class, or from this really rich city in Arizona. And I don't know if I remember if I was eating or drinking at the time, but I almost choked when that scene came up. And I know you might think that I'm overreacting, but it's just, I'm not. And if you're from Arizona and you know how Scottsdale is, and you know that it's the only Scottsdale in the world, there's no way that's coincidental. And the fact that they put it in there is crazy to me. It's so ridiculous. And then and it didn't stop. I just kept watching it and watching it, and then I kept going, oh my God, that's crazy. Just like in the Watts case. Oh my God, it's crazy. And so that was it. Sealed the deal. It also helps again that I'm familiar with predictive programming and these other events. Is it true the same guys own Anadarko, Blackstone, Vivint, and the company that? So with the Anadarko, Blackstone, Vivint, and AHS connection, um, Blackstone and 20th Century Fox, which owns the FX network, which airs American Horror Story. At the time, I don't know about now, but at the time of the event, um, they own shares with Anadarko. Blackstone owns Vivint as well. So what are the odds that two companies, one again that airs American Horror, that owns the channel that airs American Horror Story, has shares with Anadarko, and Blackstone owns Vivint, and Blackstone has shares with Anadarko. And Vivint got a ton of free publicity in this case as well. And if you're familiar with Blackstone, not a very nice company, not a very well, they're just bad. So that makes it even less coincidental that this trailer comes on Nate's television. Little kitty. Hey, Radical. Well, thanks, Baked Cake. Yeah, and I know that the fact that my videos of the American Horror Story connections are broken up into different segments, I know it probably doesn't give it that much of a wow factor or a shock value, but that's why, I said in my last stream that I did that live stream, two live streams where I just put all of the connections to American Horror Story on paper, in the same area, so that you guys can see how many there really are. Hey, Shadow Dancer. So let me just check the chat here because I don't want to ignore you guys. Oh, and I don't know if you've seen the show Orange is the New Black, but just out of, I guess it was just a coincidence. I don't want to say that there's no such thing as a coincidence, but out of sheer luck, I just happened to start watching Orange is the New Black, a show that I'd wanted to watch for quite a while, just like American Horror Story. So that's why I was like, well, might as well kill two birds with one stone, watch American Horror Story, and then see if there's any other connections between the Watts case besides the trailer on Nate's TV. And same, and then I just happened to start watching Orange is the New Black. There's predictive programming to the Watts case in that show as well. I just don't know if I want to go back, and I should have wrote everything down. And I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way. I'm just totally have like Watts on the brain. I'm probably just going crazy. There's no way that they added more predictive programming in this show as well. But I was right. And I'll tell you why I was right about it. I should have trusted myself and wrote them all down because, like I said, I don't know if I want to go back and watch that entire season again or show. But the majority of what they mention in this case, it means something. They love their symbology. They love their little Easter eggs. numerology. So when Amanda McMahon is in her interview, she mentions something about watching Orange is the New Black. And I didn't realize it at the time, but someone had mentioned her interview, or I was going to find something for a video I was making, and I didn't remember. Maybe I didn't even hear it the first time. I didn't think anything of it. And when she said that they watched Orange is the New Black, I was like, holy cow, I was right about the predictive program. So if you haven't watched that show and you always wanted to, or if you like it, go back and watch that and you'll see what I'm talking about as far as the connections, the predictive programming. It's crazy. Yeah, Lisa, I mentioned that in one of my videos. The output is 666,000. Oh yeah, that's on the. I know what you're talking about. I didn't mention that part of my video, but yeah, on Wikipedia, I believe it says that that's how much output. But on August 13th, 2018, guess how much a Anadarko's oil stock was? 66.6. Couldn't make it up if I tried. It's in my video. Yep, that was the oil stock price on that day. There's more connections that I've noticed as well, as far as all these. And I don't know if I'll make a video on it. It takes me so long, and it's just I just don't get the views to make it worth my time. Like my American Horror Story videos, they've been out for over 2 years now, and they're barely sitting on 1,000. So I don't. I have to be. YouTube has to be. What's the word I'm looking for? Whatevering my videos, suppressing my views. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, but the bee thing, I'm like, wait, what's it talking about? There's so many references to, and especially between American Horror Story. You have the entire season of Cult, and if you see any of the American Horror Story posters that they put out, there's a woman who has a beehive honeycomb face, and of course you have Cult, and cults or bees can be compared to being cult-like, because you have the queen bee and they just work for her and then they die for, and they just do what they're told. Hi, little kitty. I know. I'm almost done. Okay. Um. So that you have that entire season, Colt, and then you have. There's just so many. I'm not even gonna like name them all right now, but there's a ton of bee. One of them being the wasp on the bed. Do you remember when? If you go back and watch, I know. I'm talking with my hands, and you want to hit my hands. You're so funny. So funny. Um. If a channel creator, or if you have time, if you go back to the part where Officer Kate Lines is downstairs in the basement, and the wasp part, she says it, I think almost like a couple times. She's like, yeah, there's a wasp on the bed. Do you see that? There's a wasp on the bed. Why would there be a wasp on the bed? So she says it like she's trying to make a point, right? But it's about a wasp. It's like, what's the big deal about the wasp, right? Um, didn't make sense at the time, but I just knew that it was weird, because she was really making a point about that stupid dead wasp on the bed. And then once I noticed all the Colt and bee connections in the case, I'm like, holy crap! It makes sense why Officer Kate Lyons was making a big old deal about the wasp, because subconsciously they're using their little Easter eggs and their symbolism that they like to use in plain sight. But like I was saying, if you go back and watch that part, you'll see how she's just really making a point. Like she's really about that wasp. Like that must be hardcore evidence because she was like, "Why is this wasp on the bed? We need to figure that out." She spent more time trying to, gather evidence about the dead wasp on the bed than they did in the whole investigation. Has anyone read the Illuminati formula? I have not. What is that? Oh, thanks, Melissa. Except for when I like get pissed and start calling Chris fuckface. Can't believe I said that. I was like, yeah, he's such a fuckface. Um, Shadow Dancer, I don't believe that it happened because I mean, do you mean as far as the victims go? I just need you to be a little bit more specific because if not, then I'll have to start from the beginning with my theory, and then we could be here a while. Yeah, the Patriot Act is crazy, Kristen. Yeah, talk about violating privacy. I remember thinking maybe the wasp did it all. Shadow Dancer says that's funny. Yeah, the never happened. Never happened. There's no evidence to to um to give me a reason to believe that they did. There's none. There's no evidence. They provided zero evidence. And they know that they don't have to in order to convince the majority of people that it actually happened. There's just is you just have to know like the little tricks that they use, like showing a picture of the firemen allegedly pulling the girls out of the tanks, right? Um, that's what they tell us is happening in that picture. And I used this example before, but so when you look at that picture, does it is that what appears is okay? How do I let me start over? I'm all take two. When you look at that picture, it does appear as though that's what's happening, right? Because that's what we're told by law enforcement and the mainstream media. They'll put a caption on the website that says Survey 319, where hazmat crew pulls uh, Watts girl, or whatever the children from the oil tanks. So is that what it looks like? Yes. Do we actually physically see anybody being pulled or any bodies being pulled from that tank? No. So that's how pictures and things can be deceiving. Because just because we're told that's what's happening, it proves nothing. All we see is oil tanks and, a few firemen and hazmat crew, their backs, uh, you know, around an oil tank. So for me personally, all that is just a picture telling me that something's happening. But do I physically see it am I seeing that's what is happening for a fact? No. And that's the little tricks that they use, or big tricks that they use. That's all they have to do in order to convince the majority of people that that's what's happening, or that's what happened. Is just by taking that picture that shows nothing but oil tanks and firemen. That's how easy it is. Just like with Nate's footage with Chris. where they beat it into our heads that this is what was happening in the video, that Chris was loading the bodies of his family into his truck. And I don't care what anybody says. If they say that they can see bodies on that footage, they are lying. They're lying to themselves, because you cannot see shit on that video footage. And that's why it's set up just so perfectly. Nate's camera is positioned just right. That stupid bush or the tree is just positioned right where, in the front of the truck, so you can't see anything going on there. So when people listen to the mainstream media and law enforcement, and they hear that they're told that's what's happening, why would they question it otherwise? Because yes, does it appear as though Chris is, he's walking backwards and it looks as though he's dragging a body, but do we actually see a physical body on that footage? Do we see, without a doubt, him putting anything in that truck besides a gas can? And are people just believing that's what's happening because that's what they were told is happening? Or do they actually physically see him loading bodies into the truck? I mean, really, like, if you think about it, how do we know that's what's really happening? And are people just believing it because that's what they were told? And same with the shadow thing. Like, shadow dancers just brought up the shadows. Um, mentioned this in the last live stream, but someone was arguing, but they were having a discussion and trying to convince me that Chris actually did put Shannon's body in there, and that it was indeed, in fact, one of the girls that he picked up that was the shadow. And I said, how do you know? And she's like, because I saw it. I see the shadow. And I said, but how do you know that shadow was actually a child that he picked up? Well, because I can see it. And I said, okay, if you can see it, if you saw it, then which girl, which was it, Bella or Cece? And they're like, it doesn't matter because I saw what I saw. And I said, no, you didn't. You saw a shadow, and you were told by the official narrative that that's what's happening, that that's what Chris was picking up, or who, not that. Because if they could actually see what they think they saw, then they would be able to know whether it was Bella or Cece. And things can be super deceiving, and especially these days with video footage and audio and whatever. There's so many. It's so advanced now. I mean, if you look up those deep state, or is it deep state? Not deep state. Deep. What are they called? Were the ones where they're putting faces on somebody else, like celebrity faces, or deep fake. I don't know. There's one where they put Tom Cruise. They put his face on somebody else's body, and they've almost perfected it. It looks so real. So with technology, things can definitely be deceiving. Another example of an easy out to not show us any evidence. How convenient is it that, I don't want to say convenient, that sounds bad, but I'm just saying, like, not convenient that the official narrative says they were put in oil, but they were put in oil tanks. So now they're flammable. Now their caskets have to be sealed. So if anybody does want their bodies exhumed or whatever, or they're obviously not going to have an open casket when the girls were allegedly in there for a couple days, right? So they come up with these like really clever ways to avoid having to show any evidence. And they also know that if a lot of people are not just going to say, I don't believe that there's anybody in those graves. Can you exhume the bodies, please? I want proof. Because if anybody does that, they're going to be mauled, right? They're going to be attacked. They're going to be ridiculed. They're going to say, you're disgusting. You're sick. Why would you want them to exhume the bodies? Like, you don't believe that they're in there? What are you, crazy? What's wrong with you? You crazy conspiracy theorist, right? So, no open casket. No, can't, caskets are sealed because they're flammable. So it's like, how convenient, right? And then a majority of people will think if they see it on body cam footage, then it must be real. And it's so not true. But it does make it seem real because we're actually, witnessing it. Why can I say that word? Witnessing it. Thank you. Happening. So it does make it feel like, it's actually real. But there's body cam footage in movies all the time. There's murder in movies all the time. Do we think it's real because we see it in the movies? No. So just because it's on body cam footage, it does not make it real. And I'm going to keep asking this question and making this point as long as I need to. But I want to know if anybody can prove one thing from this case that is factual, that can give me actual evidence, concrete evidence of anything that we've been told in this case being real. Because how do we know? How do we know that? How do we know that Shanann flew into Phoenix? Were you on the plane with her? I wasn't on the plane with her. They can tell us that she was on this flight number, this flight number, and then we're going to go, okay, well, we did look it up, and there is a flight number, yada yada yada, on Southwest Airlines. So that must make it true. No, all they're telling us is that she was on a flight. Does it mean that she was really on that flight? No. Or that it was delayed? Yeah, it was delayed. We can confirm that it was delayed. But again, does it mean that she was actually on that flight? Do we have video footage of her on the airplane, on the flight, getting off the terminal, getting out of the, leaving the terminal? And even then, I wouldn't believe it because they're just taking pictures of her on a plane. But they don't have to do all that in order to convince the majority of people that it happened. That photo of Shanann and all her Thrive coworkers or whatever at the thirsty lion because they're telling us the whole thing's a lie, and lions are very Freemasonic, by the way. That picture could have been taken anytime. Just trying to think of some more examples, but I mean, everything pretty much is an example. How do we know that Shanann even really went to North Carolina? How do we know that Chris and Kessinger even had sex 6 times a day? How would we know that? How would we be able to confirm that they were humping like rabbits? We wouldn't. We're simply believing an official narrative, that what we've been told. There's zero proof that there was even an affair to begin with. And I get that, some people will be like, well, you have to believe something sometime, but that's the thing. No, I don't. Especially when it's, a story or a narrative where stuff doesn't add up. Now, if things added up with this case, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it because it would add up. So when stuff doesn't add up, I'm going to question it and I'm going to believe that everything is false until proven otherwise. So how do we know Nutgate even happened? How do we know that happened? And we're not just told that as a part of a story. Were we there? Were we there to witness the Nutgate happening? Or is it just a story and a scene written in a script / discovery? Right? There's no video footage of any of the people that worked in Anadarko going in and out of Anadarko for any of that time period. How do we know Kessinger even worked at Anadarko? There's just anything. Pick one. I mean, I would like someone to try to prove me wrong on this because there's no way that anybody can, without a doubt, prove that anything we've been told about this case is true. And the fact that there is so many red flags is more than enough reason for people not to believe anything that they've been told about this case. Because if they've lied about, one thing, not only one thing, but many things with this case, if they've lied about that, what else have they lied to us about? And if people believe that they're capable of a cover-up, to cover up this, if there's a conspiracy to cover up this entire case, then why is it so unbelievable that they could have possibly fabricated the whole thing to push multiple agendas? Oh, no, they're totally capable. Law enforcement is Weld County is totally capable of a cover-up. Cover-ups happen all the time. There's corrupt police systems, but oh no, there is no way, Megan, that they would orchestrate this entire thing. That's just stupid. That's just ridiculous. Why? Why is that ridiculous? If they're going to those measures to cover up something, whatever, then why is it so ridiculous to believe that they could have possibly fabricated the whole thing? And again, it should be more than enough reason to not believe anything we're told of this case. And back to the body cam footage, if you just because you see something on body cam footage, does that mean that everything that we were told happened? All it means is that you're watching body cam footage. And I know that's hard for most people to grasp sometimes because it's like, well, why would they lie to us? Why would they do that? Why? That doesn't make sense, Megan. Why would they do that? Because people are messed up and they're selfish. That's why. Oh, and then Shadow Dancer. Yeah, I don't believe Chris is in Wisconsin either. That's the thing. That's another uh, great example is how do we know Chris is really in prison? How do we know he's in there? Are we in there? Are we inmates in there? Have we physically seen him in there? I mean, they don't even bother to put him on the inmate on the inmate database, but they know that that's something that we're never going to be able to vet. And even the people that work in the prison system. So if you call the front desk and you say, "Hey, I'm curious, is Chris Watts really an inmate there?" Do you think that they're really going to say no if they knew? And even if they did, even if they might not even, they don't have to be in the know, right? So the front desk, the person at the front desk is going to have no idea if he's really in there or not. They're always at the front desk. They're not going back into the, so not everybody has to be in the know. So when you call the prison and say, is he in there? She's going to say, of course he is, silly goose. Why wouldn't he be? Click, right? So that proves nothing. They have him in solitary confinement away from other inmates. How convenient. So they're never going to see him. But the mainstream media and law enforcement tells us that Chris Watts is in prison, so that must mean he's in prison. That proves it, right? Without a doubt. No, it doesn't at all. I hope I'm like making sense, but it's getting late, so I'm probably getting a little. You put a link on one of your. I put a link on one of your videos. Maybe about editor. Oh, which one? Shadow Dancer. Recent one? But yeah, no, yeah, I know, I do know about Anadarko using psyops because I made that um, frack and distraction video. And Colorado is a hotspot for military psyops. So I thought at first your comment, Baked Cake, said, I think blueberry is scary. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we all have our fears. It says Bluebeam. Yeah, exactly, Sue. The site was being decommissioned anyway, so a perfect set for a stage event. Yeah, how convenient. How convenient that Survey 319 was an old well and, um, it was almost dried up. So no security cameras. That was one of the reasons why there's no security cameras, because it was such an old well and it was going to be plugged and abandoned. And then you have Survey 319 torn down, and there's one of your red flags and characteristics to look out for is, lack of evidence. One, evidence being tampered with, didn't tape down the secure the house, the crime scene, right? Everybody walked in and out of there, touching everything, light switches, Nicholas Atkinson, Madison Atkinson, Nicole Atkinson, Chris, news crew, police officers. So if you have lack of evidence through the entire case, tampered with evidence, or evidence destroyed, like Survey 319 and auctioning off Chris's work truck, that's a big red flag. And I was going to mention this earlier, but like the other cases, like the Sharkey case that I believe is possibly one, that Tristan Bailey case, that's definitely orchestrated without a doubt. The Vallow case, I'm almost certain it is. I couldn't get into it because there's so many, the cult thing and so many different people, and I didn't start trying to follow it until it was like way into it. It's a good possibility. Now, even though that they're doing the whole supposedly trial thing, it doesn't always have to be no trial. It depends. They're going to be different, and they're going to cater to that specific event. But for the most part, they still follow the same characteristics and itinerary. Did I say the Sharkey case orchestrated? that the Orson and is it Owen? No, but the two little twin boys or whatever that went missing, more than likely orchestrated. But yeah, the Tristan Bailey case, that one's definitely orchestrated. What am I missing? Oh, uh, Suzanne Morphew, red flags all over that one. What's some of the other ones out? The Summer Wells one, I don't know enough about yet, but I'm already seeing red flags for that one. Um, I'm sure there's several more that I'm missing, but the point I want to make is some are going to be much bigger than others. So the Watts case, much bigger than these other orchestrated ones, like the Sharkey case, and those are just tiny ones that they're using to push an agenda. But the Watts case is obviously massive, for a reason, and I think it's even bigger than I know. But there's a reason why it's so successful as far as the psychological aspect of it, and that's because of all the body cam and all the information that was released. And it doesn't mean that they're all going to be successful either, right? So maybe the Sharkey case just didn't build enough attention. It didn't grab people's attention as much as the Watts case or whatever. But to be honest with you guys, I would, you have to think for yourselves and don't believe anyone. But I would just be very, very cautious of any of these high-profile murder cases or missing children or whoever, missing person cases that are really getting all of this mainstream media attention, and a lot of it, where all the media outlets are pushing the same exact narrative, and that's all you hear is over just this case about till your ears bleed, right? I would honestly consider them orchestrated until proven otherwise. And so do the opposite. Instead of believing it and then proving it to be orchestrated, consider it orchestrated until they prove to you otherwise. And when you have the mainstream media outlets being complicit in all of it, that definitely doesn't help. That's their job, is to push that narrative out to as many people as possible and keep pushing it. And that's their only job. And once they're done with that, that's it. Colorado, the U.S. Army's Airborne 324 Psychological Operations Company is based out of Buckley Air National Guard Base in Aurora. That's very interesting, Shadow Dancer. I did hear about that, I think. And there's obviously other ones as well, right? I think there's several. Yeah, and targeted individuals, Kristen. I started looking into that a lot on DLive and playing videos. I'm not 100% convinced, but um, I also don't. I also know that's a possibility as well. And from what I see, it's more than likely real. And it's just a psychological, um, mind controlled. I don't know what to say. I was going to say mind fuck, but yeah, and I feel really bad for anybody that it's a victim of that, because that would be absolutely terrible. Hi, Callie. I hope you're feeling better. Oh, you have been a targeted individual, Kristen. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sorry. I What's crazy is the reason why I started looking into TIs is on randomly on one of my Watts videos, and I think that they were confused because, well, I titled it the suspicious vehicle. It's one of my like way earlier videos, and um, so I think just based off the title, they assumed it was I was referring to a targeted individual, which makes sense. Like I can understand why they would think that. So in my comment section, they said that they were a TI, and they had posted a couple links to some videos that they made. And initially, when I played the video, first minute in, I'm thinking this guy's crazy, right? He's saying that all these white cars are following him, and that and he's just upset and he's cursing. And he's just like, fuck this, fuck that, and he's like, see, watch this one, this motherfucker. He's been, following me. He'll come at this certain time, and see how this one stops at this street. And I totally was like, yeah, this guy's crazy. But then I kept watching his video, and what he was saying and what he was pointing out with these vehicles, I was like, wait, I was like, maybe this guy is not as crazy as he seems. And he's just erratic, and because he's had it, right? He's tired of it. And so then I watched his other video, and then it just made more and more sense what he was saying. And again, it's not the greatest video because he is upset, and he's walking, and the camera's shaking and all over the place. But what he was saying made a lot of sense. And on his video, somebody left a comment to a link. This is the crazy part. A link to one of those like jobbing.com or whatever, one of those job hiring websites. A link to a job, a specific job called what's it called? A surveillance person. It's not surveillance person. It's something surveillance. And and they say read the description of the job in the comment. And I go to the website, click on the job, and it's literally the requirements to be this surveillance whatever. I forgot the title of it, but the exact title. Saying how you have to be physically fit, you have to be able to sit in a car for certain hours a day, you have to hey Scotty, you're still up? How's your pup? um and just literally like the whole description and the job requirements were pretty much explaining how you would follow a person as your job, and how um, uh, you have to be have experience and know your way around a city and know GPS really well. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is crazy. There's literally a job title for stalking people, for targeting them. Now, but what I'm thinking is, I don't think that the people necessarily that are getting these jobs, that are being hired, I don't think that they know what their job title actually is. So what they're being told is they're just oh god, I'm gonna have trouble with this word now. They're just surveying, right? The specific area that they're told for their job. So whether that means pulling up to a park and sitting there and recording a certain area or taking pictures, or driving in a circle around a block around the neighborhood and surveying it, um, whatever. They might just simply be doing that, not knowing that they're actually following this targeted individual. They're simply just thinking that they're surveying the land or whatever, the house or the neighborhood. So let's say if one of the targeted individuals, just like let's say they finally had enough, and they're like, they just blow up and they run up to the car that where the person is doing their job, right? The surveillance person. Um, and they go, "Why the fuck are you following me? Right? Stop following me. You're driving me crazy. Like, enough." Right? They're gonna probably think this guy's fucking crazy. Why is he yelling at us? We're not taking pictures of him. We're not following him. We're just doing our job, man. Right? So if that person happens to, lose it and throw a brick through their windshield or whatever, pulls them out of the car and beats them, now they look like the crazy person and they're going to jail. So and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, but the reason for targeting individuals is like, or well, for instance, they will choose specific people. So for instance, they'll pick someone who's like a recluse. They don't have a lot of family. They don't have kids. Spend a lot of time in their home. They don't have a social life, right? They pick them for a reason so that they can't have family members or a wife or kids butting in and and saying, "Hey, it's okay," or whatever, to pull them out of that funk, or to whatever. I'm probably not explaining it right, but um, so they pick someone who's like a recluse so that they don't have anybody to talk to, so that it literally, whether it the stalking and targeting, whether it literally drives them crazy, like actually crazy, or whether they think they're just crazy. Either way, it's a very, very sad situation. I mean, so they're literally driving these people to insanity. And you can't go to a therapist because they're just going to think you're crazy and they're just going to give you medication, pharmaceutical medication. And either way, it's like a lose lose situation. So that's why like I said, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why they pick people who don't have a lot of family and who are kind of recluse like. I don't know how, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how we got started on that, but that's what I have learned so far, anyways, through researching it. Look up Brian. I'll take a screenshot of that. Brian Coffrin. Oh yeah, I believe it, Kristen, about the teachers and the doctors. Yeah, of course. Shadow Dancer. The post I did, Megan, was about Matt Yeah, that's I put that whole conference in my video. Here, I'll put the link to my video that I made about it. Hopefully it doesn't sign me off. Okay, how do I comment? There we go. Okay, here's the link to my video about the Proposition 112 and the fracking and the psyops. I heard that as well, Kristen, about them having high intelligence as well. AA was formed by what's should I know what AA is? Oh, are you talking about Alcoholics Anonymous? Yeah, and that's the thing too, Baked Cake, is there's probably a lot of people who do have an open mind and are want to ask questions, but the whole conspiracy theorist thing, the way that people are treated, who they ask questions. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist if you're asking questions. No, I'm smart, right? But when anybody does speak up and ask questions, they get attacked. And so a lot of people, you know, retreat at that point and they don't want to ask questions and they feel like they're, backed into a corner. Nobody wants to be attacked for asking questions. And so, um, unfortunately, that's what it's come to. So I wonder if you've seen that guy's video that I'm referring to, Kristen. Sorry, it kicked me out, but I should probably end this anyways because I've been on for like 4 hours now with the other one. So, hey Craig, hey Chris, where you guys been? What did I ask you? Are you, is your comment for me, Kristen? Um, I don't remember. I think the last thing I remember saying to you was, oh, I just said I wonder if you've seen the video of that guy that I was telling you guys about. Yes, and very glad to hear about your sobriety, Lisa. Okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna end this because my voice is getting all hoarse. Of course, hoarse, of course. Um. Oh, and I will please watch this ODD TV video link that I put in the chat. Um. Hey, Morgan. it will show you, it should, hopefully, I mean, not, you're obviously, it's not, you're gonna have to watch more videos than just one to, you know, more than likely, but it's a start. And I still recommend that you watch Ole Damengard's um, presentations that he does, or any of his content. Um, there's one called Ole Damengard, Terror, Are You Kidding Me? And he talks about how they are able to pull these, like, you know, events off and the little tricks that they do. So um, I'll put the ODD TV link in, and if I remember, I'll try to put some links in the description. But if I don't, just leave a comment on one of my videos, and I will I'll find the link for you if you're interested. Hey Jenny. Oh, and if you haven't followed me yet on DLive, please consider doing that. It only takes a couple minutes. And, you know, if I do eventually ever get to 1,000 before they end up censoring everybody over there, then I can have replays that, you know, that will stay there so that you guys can go and watch those if you missed the stream. Yeah, exactly, Craig. I always forget about posting the comments, but I never know if like someone's comment wants to be like on the screen or not, because my luck, they'll be like, no, don't put my comment on the screen. So I don't know. um that's all I have is I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have is Cash App, Lisa. But I appreciate you trying. Okay. I'm like, okay. Thanks everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will try to do more YouTube streams and try not to be all over the place. But again, please follow me on DLive, because I don't have to worry about what I'm saying all the time as of now. So, and like I said in the first live stream, I usually pretty much every day stream something on DLive between 1 p.m. and anywhere between 1 and 4 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you remember, you can always go there and just, I might be streaming something significant to watch. I might be streaming other conspiracy stuff or other government corruption stuff, or playing trivia or playing music. Anything goes. But you should be able to find me between that time period, and, you know, hopefully you'll catch something. But thanks everyone again, and see you guys next time. Okay, bye.